My name is Brent Sewell, and this is my wife, Lori-Beth. And we're just going to talk a little bit about the past few months of our lives and how God has been faithful in our obedience.
We recently moved to West Hollywood from College Station, Texas. There I was working at a law firm. I loved my job. I had great Christian bosses and a great Christian environment that I was working in. I also volunteered at our church with the children's ministry. Brent there was playing in the worship band about 5 times a week. We had 4 weekend services, and then we also had a mix. Well, it's called the mix, but it was a youth group that he led. We're just very happy. We had 2 wonderful dogs. We had no reason to complain. And
God started stirring up a passion inside my heart and my wife's heart for me to go and pursue music even further and actually go to a music college. The best one we found was out here in Hollywood. It's called Musicians Institute, and in order for this to actually happen, there were tremendous obstacles that had to be overcome, and in my opinion, it could not have happened without God and without His intervention. Everything worked out. Like, we needed to rent our house. Well, we had renters within like 2 weeks. We didn't even think that was going to happen. We thought it would be almost impossible to rent our house in the time to get to school, but it ended up working out. Our dogs, we loved our dogs. They had 1.5 acres to roam on. We didn't think that we'd be able to bring them here to California. So it actually turns out that one of my old roommates said he'd take care of our dogs. That was wild to me. For years. Who knows?
And then give them back.
Who knows how long? And then give them back. That was crazy. What's another one, babe, that we're talking about here? My parents' objections. Yeah, we are adults. We're married. We can do things on our own, but it's still nice to have your parents' support or just encouragement. And my dad seemed to be completely against this at first when I told him all about it, because he's very practical thinking. Well, it turns out, after explaining how strongly we felt about this being God's will for our lives and all the things that God had done so far, well, my dad ended up becoming on board with the whole idea, and he actually is even helping out a little bit financially with the school too. So that's just a tremendous blessing.
He's one of our biggest supporters, and he's just had a huge hand in the whole process.
So we had come to terms with the fact that we would probably have to drive out here to California without actually having a place to live yet, and find something when we got here. That still took a lot of faith. And in the meantime, my dad actually talked to Tom Stringfellow about our situation, told him that that I was a worship leader and that I was coming out here to go to school to do music, and didn't have a place yet. And Tom actually found us a place to live. It was incredible. We were just blown away by that, and the fact that he told us about James and James's vision for the church and for the contemporary service. And James had been praying about that for a long time and thinking about hopefully implementing that. And we thought, wow, that's just right up our alley. I mean, we're coming from a church that it had 10 people in the church like 3.5 years ago, and now there's 700 people in it. It's just amazing, the growth that has happened. We actually got in halfway on that, but we've just seen a lot of growth and a lot of amazing things that God has done through reaching new believers in contemporary worship and contemporary style service. And we're just really excited to be able to be a part of a new deal like that as
In
well.
California, we got to meet James and Meredith, and we spent a lot of time with them, eating with them, hanging out with them. They really just welcomed us and had such a great hospitable nature towards us. We have become good friends, and they have shared their love for God, their passion, and their vision for the church and for this contemporary service. And we just felt really connected with that. And God really moved inside of us to want to be a part of that. And so we began to look at this journey that we had been on and each step that God had called us to follow. And each time we responded with obedience, He was so faithful in answering us, making each step of the journey so much easier, that every time we got to a more challenging step that required more faith, it just became easier and easier because we saw God's hand on everything that we were doing. And we're now realizing that God had more of a plan for us than just Brent going to school here in California. He was organizing this whole plan for us. He wanted us to be where we're living now. He wanted us to meet James and Meredith. He wanted us to be a part of First Baptist Beverly Hills. And we really feel that He has something very specific for us at this church that He wants us to be doing. And we just wanted to share our story with you today to encourage everyone in their own lives, in their work lives, in their church lives, to just answer God's call with obedience, because when you do, He answers so much more than you would ever imagine. We're excited to be a part of the church. We have really enjoyed getting to know the people that we have gotten to know. There's plenty of people we don't know well, but the spirit of this church is on fire for God. There's such a servantly attitude, a warmth, and a welcoming nature that we just think is awesome. And we feel that God's going to do immeasurably more than you can ever imagine in this church. And we just challenge you to be obedient to what God is calling you to do in every step in your life. There's one passage we wanted to leave you with, and Brent's going to read it.
It's Ephesians 3, verse 20. Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us, to Him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever.